Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you a preview or a prototype of a new deck that's coming soon from the same creator of the Ink Witch Tarot, and this one is the new Oracle deck called the Endless Oracle. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I'm a huge fan of Eric's work, so when Eric reached out to let me know about this particular Oracle deck coming soon, I was real excited to be able to have the opportunity to not only check it out, but to share it with you all. So there's a little guidebook for this deck, which we'll take a look at here in a moment, but I want to jump right into these cards because I've had the opportunity to see a few of the images prior to actually getting the deck. And so I just have to tell you, I'm super excited about taking a look at this one. So it comes in a little tuck box. It says 50 hand-drawn original Oracle cards that can be mixed and matched to create near infinite panoramas, which is the absolute coolest thing about this deck. The artwork though is pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and jump in. Here is the absolutely beautiful backs. I love Eric's art style. I think he just has such a wonderful way of conveying emotion and feeling in his artwork. So I'm real excited to see an Oracle deck that really does tap into that. And the color scheme is just, like, I feel like it's going to be a really beautiful contrast to the Ink Witch, which also has a very minimal color palette, but it has more of a color palette in those sort of earthy browns and tans, whereas this is more in that kind of like midnight blue and black, which is so cool. I'm real excited to pair those together. So let's go ahead and take a little flip through the deck because it is absolutely stunning. So here we have the archway, the bard, beautiful. And we'll take a look at the panorama of it here in a moment when we get through all the cards. So we have the birds, and the bridge, the butterfly, the cat, the clashing armies. That's an interesting one. The cohort, the cottage in the woods. Ah, it's beautiful. We all want to live there, right? I want to live there. The crossroads, the dark figure, the diplomat, the distant walled city. Interesting. The dog, the fallen hero, the fawn, the fields, the figure by the fire, the fisher, the forest. I love that with a little pop of green on the leaves there. It's beautiful. The gathering clouds, the giants, the goddess, the graveyard, the healer. Again, those little pops of color are just fantastic. The herald, and here we see it in the rainbow. Love that. The knight. Those little pops of color really draw your eye. The lighthouse, the lightning striking. Interesting. The merchant, very tower in that lightning strike card, right? The mirror pool, I love this one's beautiful. The mountain, oh, I love that too. The planet in the background, that makes me happy. The mystic, the observatory, the ones who came before. I love that, very ancestral. The pair, the palace, the pomegranate, the procession, very Six of Wands vibe there. The revelry, the ships, the sword, the tree, the unicorn, the wasteland. Oh, I like that. That's a good keyword. The waterfall, the weavers. That one is a personal favorite of mine. The well, the witches, the zenith. And then there were a couple of extra cards. So these cards, if I remember correctly, are available on certain levels of the Kickstarter, as well as to Eric's Patreon. So these are not in the standard deck, but will be available through different iterations of the deck. So we have the Artist, the Fortune Teller, which is awesome, and the Patron. This deck, oh my goodness. Generally, you know, I like decks with titles and or keywords. Sometimes decks with just titles on it, like we see here, are hard for me to work with and to figure out how to integrate into a reading. But these titles are so clear. They're not trying to be anything other than what they are, which I really appreciate, because it just says what it is on the card, and there's enough here in these titles and in this artwork for me to get a really good idea of what that might mean to me. However, there is a guidebook, so you know, I can also take a look at it there. We're just gonna give it a shuffle. Eric's deck shuffled beautifully. Great size, gorgeous shuffle. It's 50 cards, so it's a good size for an oracle deck. I feel like, you know, somewhere between the 45 to 55 for me is kind of the mark that I try to hit with an oracle deck when I'm looking at ones to purchase, because anything kind of less than 45, in my opinion, is getting to be not a great oracle size. Just pay attention to what I'm doing here. Shuffles beautifully. That card wants to flip out. What is it? The Graveyard wants to flip out. Okay, so let's take a look at this panorama thing, because this is so cool. Let me see if I can do this properly. The sun is blaring, but we can create this gorgeous story with these cards. Look at this. We can put them all together and make this beautiful panorama. And I got the Fortune Teller, the Zenith, the Butterfly, and the Fawn. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty? This deck is just it. Yeah. I mean, clearly I'm a fan. This is not going to be an unbiased look at this deck. Clearly I'm a fan. I do want to take a look at the guidebook, and then I just have to get out Eric's other deck and see how it reads with this, because I'm just curious. So let's pull a card, and then the ships, and then we'll take a look in the guidebook here. So we've got this lovely, just quick little paperback guidebook. We have our title page, and then we have our table of contents. I do love that everything is listed alphabetically, and we have numbers, fantastic page numbers. So it's gonna make it real easy to find the cards that we're looking for. So we have the ships, and for the ships, we have long voyages, distance, homecoming, farewells, and travel. Many cards in the Endless Oracle may allude to travel, but the ships, more than any other card, speaks to the idea of long trips across vast distances. You or someone you know may be going away for a long time when the ships card appears. Alternatively, somebody may be returning after such a trip. The ships foretells travel and movement, both physically and in a more abstract sense. It calls on you to look back and reflect on the voyage so far, as well as forward into the path before you. Think of things in the long term. You've likely come far, but you still have a long journey to go. In larger readings, keep an eye out for figures nearby the ships. Do they seem to be anticipating an arrival of some kind? Or are they perhaps saying farewell? Other cards may suggest the nature of journey at hand. What motivates the travel of the ships? In the sky. Oh my goodness, does he have? Yes, he does. How awesome. He talks about what is in the sky of the cards. So in the sky of the ship's cards is Sagittarius, a zodiac associated with flexibility and the power to adapt. It represents an archer and reminds us to embrace the adventure. I didn't even catch that. I mean, I noticed there were things in the sky, but he's actually noted what they are for us, which is fantastic. That is just like a whole nother layer you can use to work with this deck. Y'all, I'm so excited about this one. Sorry, I'm just not even gonna be objective because I'm so excited about this one. I have the Endless Oracle here, and then I have my Ink Witch Tarot, which is the other deck by the tarot deck by Eric. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a little shuffle. This is one of my all-time favorite decks, just have to say. The card stocks, just in case you have both, the card stocks feel really, really similar. In fact, I think they are the same card stock. and Eric can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but they do feel very, very similar. So I want to know, like, let's see, how can we best play with these two decks together? Because, like, I'm just kind of excited. Let's do what do we want to do? Let's do a 3-card here. Actually, let's put the Oracle in the center because you know that's how I tend to do. So we have Death, the Archway, and the Fool. How cool is that? I think that these are going to actually read together really well just in a typical 3-card spread, but like I kind of want to try some different things. We have the Knight between the Magician and the Ten of Swords. It's beautiful, right? I feel like we could use the Ink Witch to do, and I do have some of the new expansion cards in this particular deck. Okay, so we have the Lovers, the Five of Pentacles, and the Tower. So I feel like we could use this deck, the Endless Oracle, to help us understand the landscape of this reading. And again, I'm just kind of throwing things out here because this is my first time playing with this deck. And what I want to do now is pull a panorama below it to see. So if we're looking at this reading as this is what's going on in our life, we have the Lovers, the Five of Pentacles, and the Tower. So clearly this would be, you know, some indication that there's maybe some upset, some shifts going on within a choice that we're making. If you see the Lovers card as a relationship, you could definitely see that as a relationship reading. This to me would tell me that within me, there's some conflict going on within me, and I'm gonna have to make some decisions because there's gonna need to be some changes. But I can use the Endless Oracle here to create this panoramic of what's the landscape of this reading. So we have the Pair, and I mean, how perfect is that? These cards are just speaking already to each other. We have the Pair. So again, looking at the Lovers. So maybe this might be an indication that the two sides of myself are not communicating well, right? And here we have the Dark Figure, which to me kind of indicates, and again, I'm reading very intuitively because I could definitely get into the guidebook, but I'm just going quick fire intuitive. The Dark Figure represents that which it's kind of the shadowy energy for me. I know something's there, but I haven't acknowledged it yet. I think that fits really well with the Five of Pentacles. And then we have the Cat. And the Cat in relation to the Tower. Now, because I'm not like a huge cat person, I do just kind of want to see what he has to say about the Cat. So the Cat for the keywords are intuition, curiosity, awareness, psychic powers, and sixth sense. And in the sky is Pisces. So being connected to one's psychic powers in conjunction with the Tower. How interesting is that? I do want to look at what's in the sky of these other two cards. So in the sky of the Dark Figure is the Demon Star, which represents the head of Medusa in the constellation of Perseus. That's interesting, the Demon Star. And then in the Pair, partnerships, intimate relationships, romance, meeting, and compatibility. And in the sky is Venus. So this particular card is very clearly talking about relationships. So in looking at this reading, even though I might tend to look at the Lovers as that inner self, the two halves of the whole within the self, or a choice that maybe need to be made there, because this pair card very much speaks to relationships, that might encourage me to change my perspective of the Lovers, to maybe look at it from a relationship standpoint. So I love when an Oracle deck provides me a deeper layer, and I really feel like that's what this Endless Oracle is doing, is it's giving me a deeper layer to this particular reading. I feel like we could also do a reading, and I've got cards just going everywhere, where we could look at what's going on in, say, our current situation or our current frame of mind. We have the Five of Wands and the Ten of Wands. That's interesting. And I could use the Endless Oracle, and even though it is kind of meant to be panoramically put together, I can definitely separate them and I can look at what's going on underneath each of these. I feel like this deck is going to be fantastic for digging into the deeper layer of things. I feel like it's really going to allow us to get at what's going on beneath the surface. It just feels very much intuitively tapped into that energy for me. So here we have the Five of Wands, and what's going on beneath the surface of that is the pomegranate. So that's quite interesting. Let's just look up keywords real quick for the pomegranate. Again, I'm not even using the table of contents. I'm just flipping through alphabetically because it's so easy in this book. So we have desire, temptation, sexuality, fertility, and yearning. And in the sky, we have Eros. So the oddly shaped asteroid named for the god associated with both love and lust. So we maybe have this underlying yearning for something that's causing some disruption in our life. And then we have the Ten of Wands over here, which really, for me, talks about kind of that responsibility of carrying through the things that need to be done. And as we have it paired with the bridge. So what's going on underneath that? The bridge, and the bridge talks about bonds, connection, unity, fusion, and overcoming. And in the sky is the solar eclipse, a symbol of fusion and unity, telling me that we can make the connection between these two. We can bring these two ideas into union. We can still be responsible, yet follow the callings of our desires, of our passions. And so that's what this would be telling me. But look how beautiful with getting to that deeper underlying level of things. I want to have a little bit of a play because I just, I'm going to give this one a shuffle. I just got a new deck in, and I'm just feeling like these might really work well together, even though I bought this deck with zero intention of actually using it. It's a whole thing. I've been playing Elder Scrolls games with my husband since they came out. So since the first one, this is based on Skyrim, which is the 5th one. And it is an Insight Edition Lazy Pip deck. Let's just be honest, call a spade, right? I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shuffle. And I bought it for nostalgia purposes. I really didn't have any intention of using it. I was just going to buy it and put it on my shelf along with all my other little sentimental things that relate to things that I love and that make me happy. But there's something about these two decks that I'm feeling like they need to come out and play together. So we're gonna see how this goes. Again, I have not used this Skyrim deck at all, and I'll show you, like lazy pip, right? We know the Insight Edition always does the lazy pips. This was one of those decks that I was like, I'm getting it anyway because I feel like I just need it. I want to do, let's see what we get here. I want to see if, I feel like the color palettes, of course, too, are compatible. But what I wanted to see here, and I wish I had gotten more pips, but is if a deck like this can help me dig deeper into a very pippy deck. So that's kind of what I was looking at. So we have the 10 of spells. I don't even know what spells represent in this deck, y'all. This deck does have a suit of lockpicking, which is just, if you played the game, just makes me giggle. The suit of spells represents adventure, creativity, and inspiration. It's connected with the Mages Guild, and it corresponds to the element of fire. Okay, so wands. Back in that wand. So we've got the 10 of wands, which for me, wands are fire. We've got the King of Spells, so the King of Wands, and the Wheel of Fortune. So I'm just kind of curious if a deck like the Endless Oracle can help me bring some depth to working with a deck like this, because I have a sneaky suspicion that it will. So let's pull some cards underneath. We have the Herald, the Cottage in the Woods, and the Witches. So let me just get into the Endless Oracle Guidebook because I feel like I need to know what Eric had in mind with these, just to give me even more depth to it. So we have that 10 of Wands, right? There's not a lot to work with there in terms of the imagery on the card. So we just kind of have to go into what do we know of the 10 of Wands. We actually just saw it in the last deck. Your power has been used unwisely and the burden you carry is great. So we're in that traditional kind of Rider-Waite-Smith. 10 of Wands means burden in this particular deck. I tend to see it more as responsibility because I try not to read my cards inherently negative or positive. I let the situation, the context, and the cards around it tell me whether it's it's in negative or positive. But here we have the Herald. So the Herald here in the Endless Oracle is announcements, arrival, news, messages, and warning. And in the sky is the rainbow, the symbol of the messenger iris, and also a symbol of hope, pride, and peace. A rainbow at night is said to be an omen of self-discovery. This is a messenger of change. This is a herald of change. When you hit the 10, like where are you gonna go from there, right? You gotta start again, or you gotta go into the courts. Something has to change in order to move forward one way or the other. And so I think this works beautifully, kind of giving me an idea of what's maybe going on underneath this card, or really adding a layer of depth. To be honest, feels very superficial. Like the Skyrim Tarot is a fandom deck, right? It's a novelty deck in my opinion, because they didn't take the time to flesh out the minors. It's a novelty deck. That's cool. That's what I bought it to be. But I can, using a deck like the Endless Oracle, I can use it in readings, and I can get deeper in there, using the Oracle to kind of help me pull out a deeper layer out of this particular deck. So we have the King of Spells with the Cottage in the Woods. So let's just see what we have to say about the Cottage in the Woods. It's home, shelter, domestic life, security, and the family. And in the sky is the waning gibbous moon, a phase of the moon often associated with the beginning of an ending. It suggests a time to take shelter, to rest, and perhaps to even retreat. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. So usually that's a card also indicating big change, right? Big life change, maybe some fate, some destiny things. And we have the Witches, and I cannot wait to see what this card says. The Witches are activation, inner power, teamwork, manifesting, and spell work. And in the sky we have Virgo, the zodiac sometimes associated with meticulous processes and making use of carefully refined routines. Much like the Witches, Virgo can accomplish great things through ritual practice. And how beautiful is that with the Wheel of Fortune? Figure out what it is that you're wanting to be doing with creating this change, and then add that kind of ritualistic layer to it. Add some magic to it. Add some intention to it, because that's what's going to make the difference, right? Adding that intention. And I love it in combination with the Wheel of Fortune here. This is just so cool. And honestly, if it weren't for the Endless Oracle, I probably would have never pulled out the Skyrim deck to read with, but I kind of dig it. I feel like a deck like this with so much depth and meaning and layer within it can really help us make use of these decks, which are really just more surface level. Again, this is a novelty deck, and I bought it to be a novelty deck, and I'm not sad about it. I'm not sorry about it, but I love how we can take an Oracle deck like the Endless Oracle and really spend some time looking deeper through a deck like this, and letting it kind of create some deeper layers to it. Clearly, I'm a fan. Clearly, I am excited about working with this deck. The added layer of what is going on in the sky just, I mean, it just takes it that much further. It takes it that much deeper. There's so much thought that's gone into this particular deck. I know that Eric puts a lot of his heart and soul into his artwork and into the decks that he creates. You can see it in the decks themselves. You can feel it in the way that you work with them, the way that you read with them. And I feel like this deck is just going to be amazing for providing that deeper layer to things. But I think this deck can also be used for fun too. Like we could do some fun readings with it. I could have taken the Skyrim deck and made that really fun. And we could just use it as a wonderful creative prompt as well. Putting these cards together, I can create a beautiful little story. We have the fallen hero who comes through the wasteland, right? Maybe transforms himself and now becomes the artist. We can use this deck very much for storytelling as well, which I think is fantastic. I mean, you could lay out so many of these cards to create such a beautiful story. So I think that this is just a very beautiful, very nuanced, very deep Oracle deck that has a lot of potential to be very useful in a lot of different ways. We can pull it to make stories. We can pull it to use positions as position spreads. We can pull it to get a sense of what's going on in our world. We can pull it for creative work, for story building, for adding deeper levels to seeing what's going on within a tarot reading, to add some depth to a maybe superficial tarot. There's just so many things that I think that you can do with this particular deck. The thought and energy and intention that's gone into this is amazing, as is all of Eric's decks. So that is a look at the Endless Oracle. The Kickstarter will be launched on August 9th and it ends on September 5th. I will definitely leave a link for all of that for you in the description box below. I want to thank Eric for sending me this deck to share with you today. I'm always happy to share his work. I love supporting young artists. I think it's fantastic. And I am really looking forward to working with the Endless Oracle in a lot of depth. So hopefully we'll be talking more about that here in the future. In the meantime, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to sharing with you again soon.